AI search platform from scratch, and I want to document my journey, and that's why I'm doing these videos. Um, and today I'm going to talk about how do you understand queries. So these videos are supposed to be somewhat technical, um, and it's really for me to share some insights, some thoughts into how I think and how my thinking is evolving every day as I'm building this. I've got the benefit that very few people in the world, I believe, has, which is to build something like this from scratch by themselves alone. I don't think it's ideal to build something like this by themselves. It's a lot of work. It's very hard. There are a lot of moving parts. Everything from the core infrastructure, the engine, the entire sort of pipeline. When the query comes and everything you do and produces a response, but also the user experience, the branding, the marketing, all of that. But I like it. I like doing it myself, and that's why I'm doing it. Today I'm going to talk about query understanding. If you've seen some of my previous videos, which I don't think anyone has, which is fine. I like doing these just to share, and I get a lot of things out of my system this way. My favorite topic in sort of building this entire search platform has been query understanding. Query understanding is really the component that sort of first kicks in when anyone sort of enters a prompt. It can be a prompt, by the way, query. This is completely AI native platform that I'm designing, so you can ask anything like you would ask ChatGPT, why you would use something like this, or ChatGPT. Primarily, it's going to be the responses are a lot fresher. Like it's the content is fresh because everything almost certainly triggers a web search crawl or web search result call, and possibly some scraping or API calls, I should say. And I'm connecting as many APIs I can so that I can do this sort of without breaking any terms of services for any of the providers, penetrate walled gardens. And so you get some really fresh content to kind of construct the final response. So your responses will be, I think, more fresh. They also share a different perspective, like something like meaning of life is a very general question a lot of people ask AI. If you ask my platform today, I'm not demoing it yet, but soon, episode 15, after I complete that, or during episode 15 is when I'm thinking I'll demo. This is episode 7. In ChatGPT, you'll get a very nice, deep, philosophical answer to the question. Gemini, Grok is one of my favorite AI models, LLM models these days. It's incredible. Grok 4.1, heavy, super intelligent. I'm so impressed by Grok. But anyways, if you ask any of these models, I said ChatGPT because it's the most popular, you'll get a nice philosophical response. But if you ask my system, which I guess behaves most closely to Perplexity. Perplexity is incredible. I love it. I'm a pro subscriber. But I go a little further than what Perplexity does, and that sort of differentiates me. So if you ask meaning of life to my platform, not only you should get a deep-rooted sort of philosophical, unbiased response, but you should also get some thoughts, some commentary on what people are talking about on social media, specifically say Twitter or X platform, and infused in, and also on YouTube, possibly what videos have been uploaded in the last maybe, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, like how people are thinking about it. And my hope is that as we have all this commentary on these video and social media platforms, our thinking is evolving in terms of understanding the meaning of life, and so you get hopefully a much more interesting, more relevant, more time relevant answer and like I said, more interesting answer. So that's the idea. Not all queries may be appropriate for a platform like this. That's why I'm calling it a search platform. Anytime you think of a traditional search or inquiry, um, that's this platform. If you want to generate images or videos, something like Grok, maybe it's probably just much, much, much better at it. And then eventually, I want to open up some of the APIs so that other folks can build upon the core infrastructure, the core APIs that I'm building, including the reasoning, etc. I think that'd be useful. So today I'm going to talk about, let's jump to query understanding. As you can see on the screen, the way I had, this is a little old, this document, but the way I had earlier when I first developed query understanding in my in my search platform was that one LLM was doing everything. So if you think about someone like a call like, hey, when is Messi's next soccer game? Right, that's a very simple query or a prompt. You want to understand what Messi or who Messi is. It's an entity, and you also want to find out more about Messi, maybe from Wikipedia, Wikidata, or Grokopedia, etc. And you want to probably execute some web search queries to find relevant web pages to maybe crawl. You can also possibly take advantage of the LLM's internal knowledge, but that's prone to hallucinations, so you have to be careful. And then you also want to find what people are talking about, so maybe on social media and YouTube, etc. About a question like that, and then put it all together. It's like in a blender, and get a very nice grounded response. One thing I didn't mention earlier is that I was talking about the benefits of an approach like this versus just traditional ChatGPT like approach, where the model responds largely without a whole lot of referencing web. Is that you get a response that's grounded in content that we can cite. So everything is sort of, the AI is saying this based on what's mentioned in this article, on this web page, or on this video. Now, they may be incorrect, like in the video, they may be biased or just ranting. That's fine. It could just be opinions. That's fine. The idea is not truthfully grounding queries like this. I don't think that's at least my sort of fundamental sort of approach. But it's something that you can cite and sort of go back to it. And so if you want to know why this, why did the model say this, you should get a Perplexity style citation. I think Google does it in their AI mode as well. That's why, and this person said it. Okay, I don't know. That explains it, kind of a thing, right? At Google, when I was working at Google, I was in charge of a team and then there were several teams. I was in charge of one of the teams where we were focused on finding a lot of possibly incorrect or tasteless content that could be surfaced as part of Google search results, and we want to ideally block or prevent it from surfacing, because trust is such an important factor for users of Google. And we've had a lot of discussions on how much truth based sort of response that we want to generate, and this discussion is very interesting. It's very hard to find the real truth, especially for very complicated queries, and sometimes there is no such thing as a truth, like meaning of life. What is a true thing to say? You can argue the only thing true that can be said is scientific, but that's not what most users are probably looking for. So I am of the opinion that you want to lean on models that are designed from ground up for being truth-seeking, and that's one of the reasons I like Grok. Is the team has emphasized they may not be there yet, but they've emphasized from day one to be truth-seeking. I think Elon Musk says maximally truth-seeking. To me, that's great. That's the kind of model. Right now I'm using Gemini. I'm using completely Google infrastructure because I think it's a good start. And I'm hoping to get Google credits, Google Cloud credits, so because I'm paying everything from my pocket, and it's not cheap to build a platform like this. And Grok, they don't have like a startup program. But anyways, but I do feel that that approach, and I hope Gemini team also shares how they've improved from some of their past mistakes, like DeepMind specifically. They've never shared um, what fundamentally they've changed from some of the past sort of mistakes that Gemini model used to make. But that's sort of my sort of perspective is rely on maximally truth-seeking AI models and then ground what you say. And it's okay to say tasteful, colorful things, but show it with citations. And Perplexity does most of this, actually. Perplexity is doing very good. You can argue that I'm kind of building a baby Perplexity, and that's maybe not too wrong, not too far from the truth in some ways. But my aspirations, my ambitions are beyond maybe what I see Perplexity doing today. The goal is not just to be this and stop. This becomes a foundation for a lot of things, including like a wearable device and a few other things, and that I want, I have some thoughts on. Anyways, so query understanding. That's query understanding. It's so important to understand. And currently, or in the past, I had sort of one LLM call doing everything, and you can see, you don't have to read all this, but you can see the intent, like, oh, you want to ask the LLM, what's the intent, possible intent, and there are some techniques you can do to help. Instead of giving like a free form intent, you want to come up with some fixed set of intents that the LLM can pick from with probabilities. Then what are the entities like messy, for example? Actually, I want to show you, I can't in this, but a good call, good query to make for a system like this is a query that involves web search and query understanding and some research, but not a whole lot of research, to kind of stress test the system. So good query is, when will Messi and Ronaldo play again in the future? And it's a pretty tricky question because you have to not only understand the query, but then go out on the web and try to find out, like, is there a match and who are they playing for, which teams, and what their schedules are, or something like that. It actually gets pretty technical, and I've tried on Perplexity. I get a decent answer from Perplexity, but I think what Perplexity really is doing is it's using its web search results and scraping the results and trying to find the best knowledge it can in one or two passes, and kind of gives, I don't know, but this is possibly the case. It's a good answer, but it's a tricky question to get a really, really good answer. Okay, so anyway, that was the case. Like everything was being done by one LLM call, and it was putting a lot of burden on one LLM call. I also asked LLM which APIs could be useful for this query, and things like that, what I call providers, and then routing, like who to call. You don't want to call all the APIs at the same time, including search API, which is just another API for a system like mine. And it was putting a lot of burden, and so I shifted to a 2-tier architecture, and then I'm shifting now to a 3-stage architecture. I'm just going to quickly show the diagram, and then I have ideas to improve even this, even further. So, are you seeing this? Why is it on? Let me see this. Complexity. Bear. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on. Let me quit Bear. Open again, Bear. Let me do this. Okay. Alright, there you go. So it was caching probably. So now this is like a 3-stage architecture, and I have plans to enhance this even further. But this is what I wanted to kind of share today, is how this can be how I'm thinking about this, and a lot of this is just from experimentation because there's not a lot of material online. Like teams like Perplexity, they don't really share a lot of detail how they do it behind the scenes. I know to a good extent how Google does it, but it's still very much geared towards like the previous way of doing things. So here I have stage one where, and these are the current models because of the credits, etc. I'm basically using Gemini, and it's doing a pretty good job. So the main requirement for models for me is it has to support structured output, so I get structured output back, and of course it has to be intelligent and well reasoned. But you get the raw query, and then I'm using the first stage to kind of expand the query, identify the language, entities, things like that. And then immediately stream to UX. So here I'm calling Perplexity style streaming. So one of the things I like about Perplexity is it does a really good job at kind of letting you know what it's doing, at least trying to. I'm doing this. It kind of shows the expanded query right away. Oh, this is what you mean. So you know, and then if that's not what you mean, you can correct, which currently Perplexity doesn't allow you. It just shows that I'm searching for this. I'm assuming this is what you meant, but if that's not what I meant, there's nothing I can do. I have to start a new query. Very bad. So Perplexity 2 has a long way to go to make a really great experience. Anyways, and then you can start streaming. Okay, this is what I mean. And then you can do things. This is something I really love doing. Google does this, and I'm sure Perplexity others do it. But a lot of this I'm doing not because others are doing better. This is all coming from just my experience, my testing. I have the luxury to do this, and that's why I love waking up in the morning trying this out. So once you know the entities, I want to enrich it so that you have a lot more content to produce a much better, much more colorful response. So knowing Messi is an Argentina pro footballer makes a whole lot of difference. I'm currently calling Wikipedia API, but maybe Wikidata API may be useful because I get a lot more structured data. Grokpedia is something I'm keeping an eye. And then, but this is like almost like the secret sauce. Almost, you can think of it. Of how a system like mine works. Although this, like I said, is also there's a lot of improvements that I already have planned in this. So I'm showing like a sort of an intermediate kind of path or intermediate step into sort of where I'm sort of getting towards. But this kind of gives a nice flavor of how to think about or how I'm thinking about query understanding. So you enrich the entities, and then you can do all kinds of things like, what APIs I should call? Should I do a web search? Should I lean more heavily on the LLMs internal sort of reasoning? Should I call YouTube? Should I do a web search? Should I call other APIs? I'm integrating with many APIs, including Places and Reddit, X Twitter platform, and then many more Time APIs, and then currency, stocks, etc. coming soon. So this allows me to separate sort of the pre LLM sort of understanding. So like getting a nice expanded query with much more context. You can think of the entities as context. Then using it to decide what to do, like how to answer this. That doesn't just lean on the LLM, like letting sort of Gemini or Grok or ChatGPT answer. What else I can give it to kind of create a better answer. And at the end of it, that's all I'm doing. I'm kind of building upon these great models that these amazing teams have built and trying to give it as much sort of fresh knowledge it can, grounded with sources, so it's not just random data, which is the hard part, and letting the model sort of synthesize, produce a nice response with citation so that hopefully the responses are much more interesting to the user. So that's that. That is today's session, guys. I will talk to you next time. I'm sorry I go in sort of all kinds of direction, but that was the idea. These are unscripted videos, and I'm just sharing my thoughts. Again, don't think it'll be useful to a lot of people, but if it does, that's great. I guess good positive contribution, I guess. Okay, talk to you later. See ya.